Today I want to talk about books. I've got books I've recently read and then what is on my to be read list. So let's get into it. Also, quick note, I'm sorry my hands are looking a little rough. I keep banging them up, but nothing major. But you might notice band-aids and things. So let's get into what I read recently. I was on a bit of a classics kick, and honestly, a lot of the books that I read are on Kindle or through the library, so I didn't really have too much to show right now for this video. But these are some physical books I've read in the last couple months, and like I said, I was on a classics kick for a while. And so the first book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I got this really pretty copy at Barnes & Noble, I think. And I loved reading this. I've read it a handful of times. I read it a few times in high school. And I really enjoyed this. It came out in okay, this book was published in 1813, and it holds up really well. Like, the characters are really entertaining and funny, and even though it's written about a society that doesn't really exist anymore, it has universal themes that hold up, and I really enjoyed reading it. And of course, it's a great love story between Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, and it's like a slow burn, enemies to lovers tale. And even the language is from 1813, but the humor really comes through still, so I really enjoyed it. The next book I've also read a lot, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I love this story. I read this so many times as a young adult, and coming back now that I'm older, my take on it was a little bit different. My take on the characters, so that was interesting. I think when I was younger, I was really caught up in like the glitz and glamour of the partying and Gatsby's mansion, and as I got older, the characters are just abhorrent. Like Daisy, and her husband's behavior is terrible. And Gatsby himself is a really tragic character. And morally gray as well, I would say. And then the narrator, Nick, is unreliable, I guess I would say. He's also like morally gray as well. He talks about these people in this book, like Gatsby and Daisy and stuff, with varying degrees of like glorifying them, and then by the supporting them in what they do, you know? Like, people commit crimes in this book. But yeah, my read of it was just a lot different now, and I really enjoyed it, and the writing is incredible. Really, really beautiful prose, I think. So, love this book. And the last one is To Kill a Mockingbird. I remember reading this in high school and really liking it, and then I read it recently, and I did like it, but not as much. I think, again, reading it in high school, I could relate more to the coming of age parts of this book and to the kids, and then reading it now, I'm paying more attention to like the adults in the book and Atticus and the townspeople and the dynamics of the town, and um, to me it kind of dragged on a little bit. It's a really good story with a wide breadth of characters and stories, and there's a lot of stories in the beginning about like things that happen in the town or things that the kids experience at school or with their neighbors, and they're kind of like little standalone vignettes, but they are building up your understanding of the types of people in this town and the lessons that Scout and her brother are learning, which then become important later on when their father Atticus is defending Tom Robinson, I think is his name, in a trial, and talking about the racism that he and Tom Robinson and the town that's in the town, and it's really good. It's just it's like long, I guess I would say, or kind of slow paced until you get to the trial, which is in the later part of the book. So that's my recently read pile. Now let's get into what is on my to be read list. And this is just the physical books that I have that are on my list. I recently thrifted a bunch of books because it was just the cheapest way to own them, to get them. My library has really long hold lists and wait lists for the books that I want to read, so it was better to just get a used copy for a couple dollars, I thought. And a couple of these are gifts, like this one was a gift. It's called Leave Only Footprints, My Acadia to Zion Journey Through Every National Park by Connor Knighton. I have not read this. When CBS Sunday morning correspondent Connor Knighton set off to explore America's best idea, he worried that the whole thing could end up being his worst idea. A broken engagement and a broken heart had left him longing for a change of scenery, but the plan he'd cooked up in response had gone a bit overboard in that department. Over the course of a single year, Knighton would visit every national park in the country, from Acadia to Zion. In Leave Only Footprints, Knighton shares informative and entertaining dispatches from what turned out to be the road trip of a lifetime. Whether he's waking up early for a naked scrub in a historic bathhouse in Arkansas, or staying up late to stargaze along the loneliest highway in Nevada, Knighton weaves together the type of stories you're not likely to find in any guidebook. Along the way, he identifies the threads that link these different places and that tie us to nature, and reveals how his trip ended up changing his views on everything from God and love to politics and technology. So, that sounds good. Elizabeth Letts. Harry DeLayer first saw the horse he would name Snowman on a truck bound for the slaughterhouse. The recent Dutch immigrant recognized the spark in the eye of the beaten-up nag and bought him for $80. On Harry's modest farm on Long Island, he ultimately taught Snowman how to fly. Here is the dramatic and inspiring rise to stardom of an unlikely duo. One show at a time against extraordinary odds, and some of the most expensive thoroughbreds alive, the pair climbed to the very top of the sport of show jumping. Their story captured the heart of Cold War-era America, a story of unstoppable hope, inconceivable dreams, and the chance to have it all. They were the longest of all long shots, and their win was the stuff of legend. I love stories about animals. I can't wait to read this. It sounds very uplifting. Next I have an Agatha Christie novel, The Murder at the Vicarage. This is part of the Miss Marple series. This is supposed to be a really good one. Miss Marple encounters the compelling murder mystery in St. Mary Mead, where under the seemingly peaceful exterior of an English country village lurks intrigue, guilt, deception, and death. Colonel Prothero, local magistrate and overbearing landowner, is the most detested man in the village. Everyone, even the vicar, wishes he were dead, and very soon he is, shot in the head in the vicar's own study. Faced with a surfeit of suspects, only the astute Miss Marple can unravel the tangled web of clues that will lead to the unmasking of the killer. I love Agatha Christie novels, especially in the cold weather months. They're very cozy. I have another one here, 450 from Paddington, also Miss Marple book. Interesting. For an instant, the two trains ran side by side. In that frozen moment, Elspeth McGillicuddy stared helplessly out of her carriage window as a man tightened his grip around a woman's throat. She watched on as the body crumpled. Then the other train drew away. But who, apart from Mrs. McGillicuddy's friend Jane Marple, would take her story seriously? After all, there are no other witnesses, no suspects, and no case. How could there be with no corpse and no one missing? Miss Marple asks her highly efficient and intelligent young friend, Lucy Ilisborough, to infiltrate the Krakenthorpe family, who seem to be at the heart of this mystery, and help unmask a murderer. This one sounds kind of complicated. Mystery books, I have found, I kind of have to pay attention to them while I'm reading them. It's a very different style of reading than a lot of the other books I read. Next I have Kitchen Confidential: Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly by Anthony Bourdain. I've been wanting to read this for a long time, and I've been reading a lot of food and chef books over the last year, and this fits right in. I think this was his first book. Anthony Bourdain is the executive chef at Brasserie Les Halles in New York, and he is the host of the series No Reservations on Travel Channel. I remember when he passed away, that was actually really sad. I think that was the first celebrity death that really made me sad. I loved his show, No Reservations. His shows on Travel Channel. This is the updated edition, but I think this book started out as an article in a paper magazine that he wrote that kind of blew up, and it got expanded into this book. First published in 2000. So I think this book is kind of food personality that I knew, like, that I was familiar with, because he was also a chef before that. Yeah, so here in his acknowledgement section, he's saying that portions of this book were published other places, like the New Yorker, Food Arts, Rover's Books Return. So he had published little pieces of it. Yeah, when I wrote Kitchen Confidential, I was still working the line. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Like I said, I've really been into books about cooking lately, including actual cookbooks, so this is gonna be good, I think. And then my last book, it came without its jacket, but this is called Get the Picture by Bianca Bosker, and it's nonfiction, and it's about, she's like a journalist, okay, a mind-bending journey among the inspired artists and obsessive art fiends who taught me how to see. So I think she's a journalist. This is not her first book. I think she has another book about wine and maybe another one. But basically, she goes into the art world, like the fine art world, and wants to learn what that's all about. And she gets a job at a gallery in New York City and kind of gets taken under the wing of the guy running the gallery. It's a small gallery, but that gets her into the art world because when she starts the book, to preface it, she kind of talks about, like, I never really got art. Like, I don't understand the people that can look at something very abstract and just, like, what do they have to say about it? Like, what are you supposed to get out of it? Like, she just doesn't. So she gets into that world and, like, learns about it. And I read part of this several months ago, probably closer to a year ago, and it was on my list to come back to for a long time, and so I finally just bought it, and so I've probably read a third of it at this point. But it really is, like, the more you know, the more you can appreciate it. Like, when she gets the job at the gallery, you know, there's a lot, she spends a lot of time helping set up the gallery for new showings, or just, like, learning about how galleries set up for shows and how much of a difference it makes, like what color the wall is that the painting is on, or how the lighting looks, and that all contributes to and has meaning in the art world. And if you're setting up a gallery primarily to sell things versus not, it's just interesting. I love art, so I'm very intrigued to learn more. And she kind of talks too about how she feels like art is like this little in world. It's like this club where you, like, know what's going on or you don't, and it's kind of exclusive, and you know, not all the spaces are welcoming, and she's trying to get into the places that she feels excluded from, you know, and, like, be one of the art people, and it's really interesting. So I'm looking forward to revisiting. But yeah, that was my last book to show you. I hope that this brought